Watunguya, watungai, radarada, kopiti, shukuru God manze. Sasa leo, nimekam tupige book review ya hii book The Alchemist. Na leo sasa lazima niwapea story, niwaelezee about this story, The Alchemist. The Alchemist is a fable about this boy called Santiago. And this book was written in the year 1988 by Paulo Coelho. And now Paulo Coelho tells us a story about this guy Santiago. He's based in Spain. So this guy sleeps somewhere with his sheep. He's a shepherd. So he goes somewhere to sleep with his sheep at a church that is not being used. And outside the church, there's a sycamore tree. So that's where he sleeps. And when he sleeps there, he gets some recurrent dream. Twice, a child comes to him in the dream and asks him to go and seek his treasure somewhere under the pyramids in Egypt. So this Santiago guy is puzzled, anashanga rada ni gani. So he goes and looks for a gypsy woman to translate the dream. This gypsy woman gets the dream a bit mbadala to translate and tells him that it's talking about a treasure hidden somewhere, and when you get it, bring me a tenth of the treasure. And he goes and sits at a bench somewhere. A king called Melchizedek, he says he's a king from Salem, comes and sits next to him as he's reading his book. The king tells him about the importance of following one's purpose, and the king hands him over 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, which help him to follow the omens. One means yes and the other means no. The king tells him to sell a tenth of his sheep to him, to the king, and the rest also to sell them and go in pursuit of his dream. And the king also insists on where the treasure is and tells him that the treasure is in Egypt, at the pyramids. So this Santiago guy, he does as the king says. He sells his sheep to him and then gets on a journey to Tangier. When this guy gets to Tangier, he meets with another person who steals from him all the money that he had and leaves him stranded in the marketplace. Santiago looks for a place to sleep, and the next morning he starts looking for a job or something to do in that place so that he can get money to continue this pursuit to get his treasure. He gets to this crystal merchant. After they have a conversation, he asks him to give him a job, and the crystal merchant agrees. Here at the crystal merchant's place, Santiago learns a lot of things and also teaches the merchant a lot of things about following one's dream. And then he implores the crystal merchant to expand his business. He brings an idea on selling tea because it's at the top of the hill. He tells the crystal merchant to sell some tea using the crystal glasses. The crystal merchant hesitates a bit before agreeing to this idea, but he does. During his time here at the crystal merchant's place, he makes a lot of money and also helps the merchant get a lot of money. The money was enough to buy like 60 sheep and go back to Spain. But the boy doesn't go back to Spain. He joins a caravan that is headed towards Al-Fayoum. So in the caravan, this Santiago guy meets with an Englishman. This Englishman is focused a lot about alchemy. Alchemy is the science, or let's say the science of making gold from lead. Alchemy deals with 2 major things. An emerald tablet, which helps to change this lead into gold, and also something called the elixir of life. This elixir of life cures all illnesses. This guy is reading a lot of books, and his aim is to meet a 200-year-old alchemist who stays somewhere near Al-Fayoum. Al-Fayoum is an oasis in the middle of the desert. So they set on the journey and they move towards Al-Fayoum. When they get to Al-Fayoum, they start looking for the alchemist. But then, when they are still looking for the alchemist, this guy Santiago meets a lady at the oasis who came to fetch water and immediately falls in love with her. And the next day asks her to be his wife. The Englishman is still looking for the alchemist. They get to have a prolonged stay because there is a war that is happening between tribes. So they need to stay here for a longer time. And when they're still at the oasis, this guy Santiago goes for a walk somewhere in the evening, he sees two hawks fighting. And when he sees these two hawks fighting, he translates that to an omen. And he understands that these people here at the oasis, which is supposed to be a central place that no one should attack, he senses or he knows that there is an attack that will be here at the oasis, and he goes to tell the people who are guarding the oasis. He helps the people in the oasis to prevent death. Alchemist hears of this and takes Santiago to a walk at night. And during this walk, the alchemist tells Santiago more about the soul of the world and about also following one's dream. He tells him that love should not hinder him from pursuing his dream, and encourages him to continue this journey towards finding his treasure in Egypt. Fatima also tells him that she is ready to wait for him. He can go, come back and find her there, and she'll be waiting for him. Fatima encourages Santiago to continue in his pursuit for his dream so that he can come back to get her. Fatima tells him that love does not hinder a man from pursuing his personal legend. So Santiago gets back on his journey and continues with his journey to Egypt. The alchemist accepts to go with him, and when they are still moving, they encounter with some Arab soldiers who capture them. When the Arab soldiers capture them, the alchemist gives the Arab soldiers all the money that Santiago had, and also tells them that Santiago is an alchemist who will transform himself into wind in 3 days. This thing puzzles Santiago so much. And so Santiago is there thinking of how to transform himself into wind, but the alchemist assures him that he is able to do that. And in 3 days, Santiago communicates with the wind, the sun, and the hand that wrote all. And after consultation, the wind tells him that he doesn't know how to help him transform. The sun also tells him he doesn't know. So he has to confront the hand that wrote all, and works in tandem with it and brings in a huge wind that makes Santiago transform himself into wind. And the tribesmen, the people who had told him to transform himself into wind, are amazed, and his life is saved. His life and the alchemist's life. So they continue on the journey. After this instance, the alchemist is convinced that this guy is ready to pursue his dream. So the alchemist shows him how to transform lead into gold. He transforms some at a monk's place, and he makes 4 pieces. The alchemist takes one, he gives one to the monk, and gives one to Santiago, and also leaves one with the monk and tells him this is Santiago. Santiago asks, "Why are you leaving this other gold for me here?" Tells him that he has lost his things twice and maybe he can lose them another time. So they part ways. The alchemist goes back to Al Fayum, and Santiago continues with his journey to the pyramids. Once he gets to the pyramids, he starts digging. As he's digging, 2 thieves come and approach him. They beat him up and ask him to continue digging. As he is digging, they find gold in his bag and say that probably he stole it and he doesn't have anything else. Then Santiago tells them that he's digging for his treasure. And one of the thieves, before they go, tells him that it's so foolish of him to come and pursue his dream. He also had a dream, and tells him that his dream was to get some treasure somewhere in an abandoned church in Spain under a sycamore tree. Santiago looks at the pyramids and sees that they are laughing at him, and he laughs back. And realizes that where he had his dream is where his treasure is. And goes back to Spain and digs up under the sycamore tree and finds a lot of treasure. And then embarks to go back to the desert to find Fatima so that they can continue with their lives together. So this is the book summary or book review of this book, The Alchemist. This guy Santiago went all the way to get his treasure, but at the end of it all, he realized that his treasure was back where he got his dream. So The secret is in the present. His dream was where he was at that moment, but he had to go all through this way so that he can pay the cost for this dream. But he had a lot of experiences, he learned a lot in the process, he met with a lot of people who he would not have met with if he stayed there and decided not to pursue his personal legend. This ship that he had did not have any problem with going anywhere. Wherever they were taken, they would go, so long as they get food and water. They can be a form of symbolism. They can be symbolizing those of us who do not have the urge to follow their dreams. They're okay with what they have as of now. But this guy Santiago is not contented, and he's ready to go all miles so that he can achieve his personal legend. Let us learn something from this book. If you're in pursuit of your personal legend, go for it, because the whole universe is on your side. There's a universal language that this guy used to communicate with his ship, and he learned that and communicated also with the wind. We are all one. All is one. And the universe is always on our side. I am the professor himself, and this was a book review of the book The Alchemist. We'll continue with the tips. Turus. Regards.